Hello and welcome back to another episode of this week's watches. And this week, just like every week, we have got another incredible drop for you guys and girls. 12 watches on the table, lots of vintage this time around because I've been listening. A lot of you want more vintage and I agree with you. As I've said in previous videos, vintage is a bit trickier because obviously when we buy vintage, oftentimes things need servicing, they need a different crown or correct crystal, whatever it may be. So then it goes off to a watchmaker, that takes time, and therefore it just adds a longer process to us bringing them to you guys and girls. So at any given moment we have 10 to 15 watches with watchmakers all over the place waiting to come to the website. So that's why vintage, as much as I love vintage and it's definitely my main passion, modern just makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier as a seller to sort of buy and sell. So that's why oftentimes you see a lot more modern than vintage. But I am working on that and I'm trying to keep that steady flow of vintage coming through to watchmakers and then back through to myself, and it's starting to work out. So there's going to be much more vintage over the next coming weeks, hopefully, if I can keep going with the pace. It just depends on repair times and everything like that. But yes, as always, down in the description, a link to every watch you see here today. That will take you to the website. You'll be able to see if it's still available and the price. You'll also see all the specifications, photos, and under points of mention, there is a link to extra photos shot with the phone in natural light, just so you've got access to all of the information in one place. You can chop and change between things and it's all there. So we're trying to do our best to provide everything possible for you guys and girls. Other than that, there's not an awful lot more to say. It's been an incredible couple of weeks. I'm recording this actually on the Tuesday, so this goes out on the Saturday. I'm recording it the Tuesday before. I'm trying to get ahead, as you can tell. And on the Friday just gone, we had sold 9 watches in that day, excuse me, which is just a huge amount of watches in one day. So it's definitely busy and I've got to thank you guys and girls for that. So before we crack on with what you're here to see, and that is the watches on table, what's on wrist? I have actually stolen my wife's watch. This is her Wittnauer from 1960s or 1950s, sorry, with the Value 72. Beautiful watch. I gifted her this, I want to say, and this is terrible, I think it was a push present for our daughter, although it may have been sort of accumulated with our wedding. I can't remember exactly. If my wife was watching this, she'll kill me. But yeah, it's a watch she wears quite regularly, but not so much anymore with our daughter, because obviously she's 10 and a half months, nearly 11 months old, and she grabs at things, pulls on things, and this bit more fragile, so she often sticks to a Christopher Wood, but it means I get to wear it and enjoy it, and I'm wearing it on a green NATO, and it looks fantastic. Anyway, now that that is out of the way, let's crack on with what you're here to see, and that's the watches on the table. We're going to start with a beautiful Rolex Datejust, a very, very nice white Roman dial with a very beautiful configuration. Let's take a closer look at that. Starting this week off with the Rolex Datejust 36mm, and this is a gorgeous sort of bleach white dial. It's an incredibly white dial, almost lacquered, with applied Roman numerals. These are what we call a Roman dial. Very desirable with the applied Roman numerals, because typically it's printed numerals, and that's nicknamed the Buckley, as a lot of you know. Tritium on the dial itself and tritium on the hands, but again, nice and white. This watch has just been well looked after. Looking at the overall condition of the bezel, the case, the bracelet, I would go as far as to say this is like unpolished. If it has been polished, it's been polished once in its past. So you're getting a very crisp, sharp watch, as you can see from those lugs and that bezel, and the bracelet condition as well is fantastic. Like super tight for the age. And talking about age, this is a reference 16234 from circa 1995, so maybe a potential birth year for someone watching out there. As we flip it open, you can see the plain case back, as you'd expect, and inside there is the automatic Rolex caliber 3135 of movement that they have used for many years and used for a very, very long time. So as I say, 1995, 36mm, white gold fluted bezel, stainless steel Jubilee bracelet. This is pretty much like the quintessential Datejust that people think of, and this is that sort of perfect period. 1995, you've got a few things. You've got the 3135 caliber, you have a sapphire crystal, so a bit of a step up from plexiglass or acrylic. You don't have solid end links and you don't have solid links, but you still get that lightness and the sort of comfort that comes with these older references, all with the modern bells and whistles, as you'd pretty much expect. So a great everyday watch that someone could totally wear, and again, this is priced very fairly when you consider everything. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, I did forget to mention this does come with its box and booklets. It doesn't come with its original paperwork, unfortunately, but it's nice to at least have the box and everything. So what you're looking at on wrist is 36mm by 43mm lug to lug, 11.5mm thick, and 20mm lugs with drilled lug holes to make strap changing nice and easy. And to be honest, with that really beautiful white dial, you could pair pretty much anything with this. So go check out this watch on the website today. Next up, we're going to a 2006 Omega Seamaster 300 with the sword hands, a beautiful faded bezel, and an upgraded clasp. And this one does come with box paperwork, comes with a lot of stuff, and an extra bezel, the original clasp. So the upgraded clasp is an option. You can have it on there that it's currently on, or you can swap it for the original. It doesn't really matter. You can choose whatever you want. But again, great value for money. Let's take a closer look at that one. Next up is this gorgeous Omega Seamaster 300 black wave dial, as you can see, with those big bold indices, big bold sword hands, and the bezel that was originally black as well has now faded to this really beautiful light grey, almost blue in certain lights, and it really looks incredible. Now, I know this sort of patina isn't for everyone, I understand that, and you'll be glad to know, for those of you that this is not for you, we have an original Omega black bezel insert as well in the box, so it can be swapped for that if you want the brand new one, or if you want to keep this faded one, is up to you. This is the reference 2254.50.00, and it's from circa 2006 with its box and paperwork. Now, unfortunately, the date on the card has either faded away or was never put on there, but we purchased this from the original owner, and he actually wore this on 2 tours of Afghanistan, and excuse the background noise, and that is why this bezel has sort of bleached to this colour. That was just the intense sun constantly beaming down on this watch, which I find absolutely fascinating. I've bought watches in the past that were on similar, I can't get my words out today, similar situations, and experienced similar things. You know, they started to fade more, patina developed a lot quicker, and so on and so on. And that's often why we end up with tropicalized watches. It's intense UV exposure most of the time. Inside is the automatic Omega caliber 1120 behind that decorated case back. This watch was serviced. Unfortunately, no paperwork for that service, and it was done with an independent watchmaker. And we've had it inspected by our watchmaker and confirmed as recently serviced and passed with our warranties and everything like that. As I mentioned in the intro, this does have the upgraded clasp, so if we look from the side, you will see push pins for the traditional links, and then screw links appear, and you see this bulkier Omega clasp. There is a way, as you can see, to basically swap this out for this clasp, and this clasp features the push adjustment, which when you push that push button and slide, you get on the fly adjustment, which makes this a great and very heavy duty clasp, as you can see. Again, for those of you that don't like this upgrade, the original clasp is in there, and there's a lot of value added for this clasp because it's not a cheap piece, and we have got the paperwork from when this was purchased as well, which is all nice and sort of dandy. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go, paired on my 7-inch wrist. It's very, very comfortable and one good looking watch. I can see the appeal of this reference, and to be honest, that faded bezel just adds a hell of a lot. So 41mm by 47mm lug to lug, 11mm thick, and 20mm on the lugs. So endless options if you want to swap this out for a NATO or a leather strap or something like that, but the bracelet is fantastic and made only better with that upgraded clasp as well. So go check this one out on the website today. From there, before we get into vintage, let's get through a couple more pieces. We're going to look at this awesome Grand Seiko Quartz GMT, but this is a limited edition for the 50th anniversary. Very, very cool piece with an interesting dial that I've really struggled to capture, so I apologize, but if you Google the reference, you'll see many photos like the stock photos. It's not as bright as those stock photos show it, as in the logo that's on the dial, which you'll see in a second, but it is there if you get certain lights, and again with cameras and lighting, it's very, very tricky. But let's take a closer look at that one. Next up is a Grand Seiko limited edition 50th anniversary piece with a beautiful blue dial and the Grand Seiko Quartz logo proudly stated on the dial, as you can see. Hopefully that's actually showing up in this photo. I seem to have the perfect light right now where you can clearly see it. But in certain lights you can't tell it's there, and in others it pops and it vanishes. It's really, really interesting and adds another depth to the dial, and obviously dials are what Grand Seiko are known for. You have the gold tone Grand Seiko logo, GMT and GMT hand and numerals, which look really, really fantastic, and it's paired on its bracelet, as you can see, a nicely engraved case back with the limited edition number out of 2019, which is when the 50th anniversary was. This reference is SBGN009, and inside is the quartz Grand Seiko caliber 9F86. The 9F quartz movements have become somewhat sort of synonymous with Grand Seiko and their quartz, and a lot of people desire this movement, and rightfully so. It's an incredible movement. We've just had the battery rechanged on this, so it's ready to go, and you can rest assured you're going to get a good time out of it. This one's actually from January 2020, and it does come with its box and paperwork as well. Not an awful lot more to say about this one other than it's a great watch, and if you're after a Grand Seiko quartz but something a little bit different, I'd highly consider this one. So let's show on wrist and taut dimension. And here we go, paired on my 7-inch wrist. A really nice size of this one at 40mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, only 12mm thick and 20mm on the lugs with drilled lug holes to make strap changing nice and easy. But to be honest, the bracelet is simple, it looks good, and it really works with the design. So go check this one out on the website today. From there, let's go over to a Schofield Signalman GMT, a very great watch. I've had quite a few of these. This is the all black, limited to 100, a great watch. So let's take a closer look. Next up is the Schofield Signalman GMT Black. As you can see, a really great looking piece and a very cool stealth look if you're into that kind of thing, which I know a lot of you guys and girls are. So this is the Signalman DLC GMT PR as it's known, and inside is an automatic Soprod S335/A10 behind that Signalman caseback. A great looking piece, as I say. You have power reserve up there at 12 o'clock, date at 3 o'clock, and you also have a push button on the side of the case itself to change the GMT, which is the second time zone right there. Nice applied indices, and the all black case, which does feature some scratches and some wear as you'd expect, especially when you consider this watch is from 2013 with its box and paperwork, limited to 100, and this is number 39. It does come on its original strap with its original polished buckle. The strap has seen better days, you know, it is starting to come apart, so I'd recommend a new strap if you are going to buy this, but it's one of those ones where, you know, you getting it at a great price, and you can pick up a strap from Schofield and add that to the order, or go elsewhere if you so wish. You know, there are screw bars in the side of the case to make strap changing quite simple. You just have to unscrew it, take the bar out, and as long as the strap itself has a thick enough opening for the bar to go through, it will fit the watch. Not really an awful lot more to say about this awesome watch, so let's show it on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, it's no small watch, and at the end of the day, I really like what Schofield do. I think their design language is fantastic, and it's very true to Giles over at Schofield and his design ethos, right? Like, he sticks true to it, and I really, really enjoy that about Schofield. So this is 43.5mm by 51mm lug to lug, 14.5mm thick and 24mm on the lugs. As I say, no small watch, and definitely not for someone who likes dainty, you know, smaller watches. This is for someone who knows what they get into with a bigger watch. So do keep that in mind, but go check it out on the website today. From there to a Fears archival two-hander, the 1930 two-hander, a beautiful watch, beautifully done with a vintage movement as well, which has been serviced and brought to modern standards by Fears. It's a great looking watch, and this one's pretty much unworn with its box and reissued paperwork from Fears. Unfortunately, the original paperwork was lost, but Fears offer a paperwork renewal basically for a small fee, which is very good. Not many brands do that, so it has that. But let's take a closer look. Next up is the Fears archival 1930 two-hander. So there was a limited edition, and there was the two-hander and the sub-second model, which had obviously the sub-seconds down at 6 o'clock. This is the two-hander model, so all you have is the simple two-hander. At the end of the day, you get to choose which one you prefer, but the reality is you're not going to find many, if any, of those three-hander with the sub-seconds around, because they made far fewer of those total than they did of this two-hander. If you head over to our website, in the write-up you'll probably see all the exact numbers. And what Fears did, which I thought was quite clever, was on the case back they did the year from when they started to the year when this was produced as the overall limited edition number. I want to say that was 175 total, but I could be wrong. And the owners could, if it was available, choose which number they wanted. So there's only one number for each year, if that makes sense. And the years they were out of business, as in they were closed as a company, are the years that they did the three-hander limited edition, and then the rest of the years are these two-handers. So very, very cool. This is 1864, so very, very early, and inside is a manually wound ETA 2360. Fears bought a load of new old stock movements and basically serviced them and got them up to spec for modern standards. So this watch is running fantastic, and you can expect good performance out of it. This is 2021, box and paperwork. It's like new, and you'll be able to see all those details and photos on the website. Even the strap has barely got any creases, to be honest. Original buckle as well, which is beautiful, and this oxblood red leather strap, which just looks fantastic, and a really great looking piece for sure. And it feels nice because you've got the vintage design, but obviously a watch with this kind of design traditionally would have had a sub-seconds. So for it to not have the sub-seconds, you're merging like contemporary design and vintage design all together to create something quite cool. I definitely like it. So let's show on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Very, very beautiful design and size. They took the original design over at Fears of the original model from the 1930s and just expanded it slightly for modern proportions, and it still wears incredibly well. So what you're looking at is 22mm by 40mm lug to lug, about 9.5mm thick and 20mm on the lugs. So endless options with drilled lug holes to make strap change a breeze. So go check it out on the website today. Now let's get on to some vintage, and we're going to start with this beautiful 18 karat yellow gold universal Geneve pole rotor. This is going to be one of the most affordable full 18 karat gold pole rotors to pretty much come to market in a long time, and that's because it has a rose gold universal Geneve crown instead of a yellow gold, and the case back has been polished one time too many over its life, and unfortunately the reference and serial is no longer visible. So it's still a perfectly fine watch. It is absolutely gorgeous, but because of those two things, we just have priced it accordingly, and it means you can get yourself a great deal. So let's take a closer look. So next up, this gorgeous and incredible value universal Geneve pole rotor, dates in 18 karat yellow gold. That is solid yellow gold, as is the dial, and that's what makes these so fascinating. You have that multiple finish on a solid gold dial. Just looks incredible. Date over there at 3 o'clock, and as a lot of you know, the pole rotor was one of Gerald Genter's designs, which is what has made it so popular and so many people come running towards it. Now, just to get the points out of the way, it does have a rose gold universal Geneve sign crown, and the case back has been polished one too many times over the years, and the reference and serial is no longer visible. Now, in regards to these facts, we can source you a yellow gold crown, but it may take some time, which is why we've not done it yet, because we don't know how long it would take, and we don't have access to any at this moment. And also, to be honest, it's not a huge problem in my opinion, and I know some people out there would rather take the great deal than wait potentially 5-6 months to find a crown. So just keep that in mind. And in terms of the back, we can have the finishing put back in, so the graining finishing rather than this polish finish. We would want to do the whole case as well, so do keep that in mind, but we can have that put back in if you want. Obviously we can't put in reference and serial again, it goes without saying, but this is the reference 269101-1, and inside is the automatic universal Geneve caliber 218-2, which is a micro rotor movement, and that's what made these universal Geneves so sort of popular, especially now, because not many brands did micro rotors, and universal Geneve produced one of the best there was. And this watch is from circa 1960s, and overall very good condition considering those factors. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. So as you can see, beautiful proportions at 34mm by 42.5mm lug to lug, only 9mm thick and 18mm on the lug. So endless options for this one, paired on a beautiful brown suede, but of course you could pair it with pretty much anything. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there to another universal Geneve, but but something very different. This is a unisonic, and that means it's a tuning fork movement, and this one's nicknamed the Buzzsaw because of the dial. This is a fantastic little watch, so let's take a closer look at this one. Next up, another Universal Geneve, and just look at that interesting dial. It is so cool. So what you're seeing here is a Universal Geneve unisonic, nicknamed the Buzzsaw because of that dial. It's like a buzzsaw. Now typically you see the blue dials of these, you very rarely see these red dials, which is why I'm so sort of, you know, feel very lucky to have this model in. It features a nice rounded polished case. This was quite a rounded case in the first place, so it's not like this one has been over polished. It didn't have strong angles anywhere. Original Universal Geneve crown and original case back with the reference and serial still clearly visible. So this is a 852101. And inside is a tuning fork Universal Geneve caliber 2-51, and this one dates to 1967. Truly fascinating. Now, some points to mention: there is a couple of marks on the underside of the crystal that we were unable to remove, and there is a little bit of debris on the applied logo which we're unable to remove as well. But other than that, it's a really fair, honest example. And again, you know, I come to expect certain things of watches from the 60s, 70s, earlier of course as well, that you will probably have a couple of things here and there that aren't quite perfect, and you know, if they were perfect, the price tag would be higher, so do keep that in mind. But this has been freshly serviced by our watchmaker. We know one of the last few remaining people who actually work on these tuning fork movements, and his prices have gone up over the years. He is about 3 times more expensive now than when I first met him many years ago, and that's just the nature, one of just how costs are going, but also the scarcity of parts and availability of people to actually work on these. So do keep that in mind. You are getting incredible value when you consider that service has already been done and it comes back with our warranty. So let's show on wrist and taut dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, a very cool sort of cushion case which just wears really nice at 35.5mm by 39.5mm lug to lug. 10mm thick and 20mm on the lug, so endless options. We paired it on the red to sort of contrast nicely with the red, but of course you could swap that out for anything at all you wish. So go check this one out on the website today. From there, let's go back to some modern with the Baltic Pulso. This is the bicompact series for the Rake and Revolution, limited edition of 250 pieces with the salmon dial. Probably one of my favorite of this series. The salmon is fantastic and the overall color scheme is great, so let's take a closer look. So next up we have the Baltic Bicompact Pulso, and this is a limited edition for the Rake and Revolution. Limited to 250 pieces total. It's one of those models that, not surprisingly, sold out pretty much immediately, and this was back in December 2021 when this one was released. And this one comes with its box and its paperwork and is in fantastic condition, pretty much like new, to be honest. Really beautiful salmon dial with the applied star over at 6 o'clock. Definitely one of my favorite designs within this compacts range that Baltic have done yet. Behind this close case back, which you can see is decorated with Revolution stated right there, the limited edition number, etc., is a manually wound Seagull ST1901. So that is the Chinese-made chronograph, something to keep in mind. It is the Chinese-made chronograph. They are not as great as some of the Swiss ones, but again, are priced as such, so do keep that in mind with this watch. But as I say, December 2021, box papers, sticker still on the back, and pretty much pristine condition. So let's show on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, another area where this watch just absolutely smashes it out of the park in my opinion. 36.5mm by 45.5mm lug to lug, only 12.5mm thick and 20mm on the lugs with drilled lug holes making strap changes. Super simple, but to be honest, this strap pairing pairs perfectly with that salmon dial. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to an Anordain Model 2 medium size, which is 36, and it is the white enamel, a absolutely awesome watch. And as a lot of you know, Anordain, huge wait list, you just can't buy any model at the moment, and this one is priced incredibly well. So let's take a closer look. Next up we have a gorgeous Anordain. As you can see, and this Scottish company are doing fantastic things with enamel dials, and they've definitely taken the collecting world by storm, because now every single one of their models is on a wait list. You cannot buy any single one right now straight off their website, which just amazes me. But anyway, this is the Model 2 medium size, as they call it, which is the 36mm, and this is an older model without a second hand and with the stainless steel hands with the blued tips, as you can see in the blue numerals. And as we flip it over, it is a solid case back with the UK proudly engraved there on the case back, a nice custom engraving, which I think is very fitting with the watch. Inside is a manually wound Sellita SW210-1. I believe they might use a slightly different movement now. Again, that's something just to keep in mind. This is a slightly older model from August 2020, and this does come with its box and paperwork. It comes paired on its original strap. It does also have a spare strap, and this strap is short, so do keep that in mind as well. But a gorgeous watch, and again, value for money when you consider what we're asking for this watch. I don't think it will last long. It has been worn. There are some scratches. There's a couple of marks on the bezel, as you can probably see. I tried to photograph it in the additional photos a bit more clearly. But again, nothing a simple polish couldn't sort, especially as this case is all polished. It'd be fairly simple, so that's something we can get done for you. It will come at an additional cost and an additional time frame to the delivery, so do keep that in mind, but request it if you would like it done. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. A very, very cool case shape, that's for sure, and I think it's just really nice and unique, especially with that white enamel dial which catches the light beautifully. So 36mm by 42.5mm lug to lug, only 11mm thick and 18mm on the lugs, so endless options for swapping this one out, but go check it out on the website today. The last modern watch on the table, that is this Fairer Endeavour titanium compressor with the 2 crowns and black coated over titanium. A very cool watch, and again priced incredibly well, under £600. You can't really go wrong with something like this. So let's take a closer look. Next up is Fairer time. So what you see here is a Fairer Endeavour titanium black DLC compressor, as you can see with the 2 crowns. Both crowns do screw down, and the top crown is for the time and the bottom crown is for the inner rotating bezel. So do keep that in mind. I often go to the bottom crown out of habit for whatever reason, but it's the top crown to change the time, bottom crown to change the internal bezel, and both are screwed down. Really nice case. There is a mark over here at 12 o'clock. We have added that into the additional photos, but to be honest, it's overall pretty damn good. Exhibition case back, as you can see, and that's a Sellita SW200-1. This model's from July 2020 with its box and paperwork, so do keep that in mind. It's paired on its original black rubber strap with its black signed buckle, which just suits the watch perfectly. It's a fitted rubber, so the overall design is great. And again, this compressor style case with the cushion case, it wears so nicely on the wrist. And talking about that, let's show it on the wrist. And there we go on my 7-inch wrist. It's a nice long strap, so you'll be able to fit pretty much any wrist into this watch. So if you have got a massive wrist, you're going to be perfectly fine. So what you're looking at is 41mm by 46.5mm lug to lug, only 12.5mm thick and 20mm on the lug, so you could swap this out, but to be honest, I think this looks perfect and I'd be keeping it on the rubber strap myself. So go check this one out on the website today. Now on to my favourite watch on the table. Will probably come as no surprise. That is this gorgeous 1940s Le Coultre Art Deco with an interesting waffle dial and a faceted crystal. It is truly fascinating. In one of the photos, it looks like there's no L on the dial, but there is. It's hidden behind the facet of the crystal, which makes it very difficult to capture properly, but it is gorgeous and the size is great as well. So let's take a close look at this. So as I said in the intro of this one, this is definitely my favourite of this week's drop, and we're going to start off by quickly showing that faceted crystal. That is absolutely crazy. I'm going to send this link to anyone who inquires on this watch, because the photos just can't quite capture how crazy that original crystal is. And as I say, that is the original faceted crystal in there. And behind that crystal is the waffle dial. Le Coultre stated at 12 o'clock and sub-seconds down at 6. There is patina, there is marks on the dial, but again, it's just nice, it's honest, and it looks really great. This is a 10-carat gold filled case. Again, faceted and angled in sort of Art Deco ways. So you will see some wear on some of the filling or the plating, if you will, here and there. So do keep that in mind. And as we flip it over, a blank case back. Now inside is a manually wound LeCoultre caliber 438/4CW, which is one of the similar calibers, if not the same caliber, they used on some reversos in the 40s. So it is a workhorse movement from LeCoultre and something very special indeed, as is this whole watch. As I say, circa 1940s, how incredible. During the war this was potentially made, and who knows what kind of wrist it would have been on, but something like this would have been considered quite elaborate and elegant for the time. Really beautiful and very interesting, but then again, I like this kind of stuff, so of course I'm going to think that. I think for some people out there this is a bit too much and it will be a bit too small, but again, all of those factors are what make me like it even more personally. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And there we go, on my 7-inch wrist. Some will consider this a ladies watch by today's standard, and you know what, a lady could totally wear this, of course, but I think it looks great on a man's wrist as well, so don't hesitate with this one if you are a guy out there wanting something cool, vintage, and on the smaller side. This ticks all those boxes, and to be honest, no one's going to have a watch quite like you on your wrist. So this is 24.5mm by 40.5mm lug to lug, 10mm thick and 16mm on the lug, so endless options for swapping this out. I think this brown strap suits it perfectly with the gold tone and that waffle dial, but a very cool piece, so go check it out on the website today. And last but by no means least, a fun and affordable vintage Eternamatic 1000, a great piece to get you started in vintage under £500, especially in this kind of condition. It's beautiful. So let's take a closer look at this one. Next up is this beautiful Eternamatic 1000 on a very cool blue strap, bringing a bit of colour and simplicity to this week's drop with this vintage watch, and again some affordable fun. As I said in the intro, under £500 for this watch, which just amazes me that you can get into a vintage watch such as Eterna, and this one's from circa 1968 for that kind of price. Condition is fantastic. The case appears to be unpolished, or at least near unpolished. Nice crown as well, and nice plain case back, as you can see. And behind that case back is the automatic Eterna caliber 1488K, which was used across the board across many different Eterna models. And the reference to this one is 3331T, and as I say, circa 1968. I've paired it on this blue strap because, as I say, I just think it adds a little bit of fun. It shows the sort of thing you can do with affordable vintage watches. You know, yes, you could put this on a plain black or a plain brown and it would look fantastic, and I would highly recommend, if you do get this watch, get a plain black, get a plain brown and play around with that as well. But there's something to be said about an affordable vintage watch on a fun strap, especially in the summertime. I think it just looks great. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And there we go on my 7-inch wrist. Very comfortable and very good looking and well proportioned as well, at 35mm by 39mm lug to lug, only 9.5mm thick and 19mm on the lug, so you can swap this out if you wish. Drilled lug holes to make it a lot easier, but go check this one out on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls. 12 watches, 12 incredible pieces ranging from vintage to modern to micro brand to major brand like Rolex and Omega. We really have got something for everyone this week, just as every week. But as always, don't forget to check out the rest of the website. We have around 120 plus watches on there at the moment as of the time of making this video, and there really is a wide range of price ranges, designs and styles, and it's what we aim to achieve here every single week at Kibble Watches, which is bringing you diversity. At the end of the day, there's many places out there where you can go and see Rolex after Rolex, Omega after Omega, and obviously we do those things, but when we do, I'd like to think we do it slightly different. We don't just get another bog standard, whatever it might be. We get something that's a little bit different, maybe a rarer dial or a certain configuration or a little bit of a story, and that's what I want to achieve here at Kibble Watches. So that's thanks to you guys and girls that I've been able to do that. So let's keep it going. We'll see you all again next week. Take care.